Now for today's episode, we're going to talk about TOP properties.
Let's say new launch now, right? 3 bidder is at 1.8. When it TOPs, 2026, maybe they will be asking about 2 mil, 2.1.
Right. And also, we're going to talk about BTO or resale, which is better for a young couple. Will you buy a BTO or MOP if assuming that you're going to get married this year?
Assuming I'm getting married this year?
Yes. And would there be a widening chasm gap between HDB prices as well as non-landed residential condos? And what's going to happen? Because it seems that condos are moving off the shelf very, very quickly in the year 2023. Last but not least, we are also going to talk about the 99-1 ABSD issue that IRAS is clamping down, as well as high net worth individuals moving to Singapore to set up family offices. Let's go. Of course, we need the official introduction of our new guest on the show, and I want to welcome Jun Wei, and want to leave the introduction to Rong. Take it away.
I didn't manage to get your height and weight just now. Can you tell me your height and weight first?
Must say height and weight.
Yeah.
All you guys have to do it one.
I'm 170 centimeters,
Okay.
64 kg.
Okay, introducing, standing 170 centimeters tall, weighing 64 kg, our friendliest, coolest, inside sales team teammate, Jun Wei.
Let's welcome.
Thank you.
All right, Jun Wei. Why don't you give us a quick introduction about yourself?
Sure.
What do you do here in PLB?
So, hi everyone. I'm Jun Wei. I am an associate listing manager here at PLB. I've been with the company for close to 2 years now, actually.
Right.
Wow, that's very fast. Close
Awesome.
to 2 years. Yeah, and I do everything that's related to sales, sale, purchase, rental, everything.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. We need to flash a photo of Jun Wei before and after. So what happened was that I told Jun Wei, boy, you have to cut your hair. once you cut your hair, you start closing deals, and of course now he's exploding.
Not just you actually.
Right.
Channel said the same thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, y'all were in the same camp.
All right.
Yeah.
I showed your new hairstyle to my wife, and she said, "Looks so much more handsome." Fantastic. Can you share with us the secret of your face? Why does your
What
face look
secret?
so smooth?
There is no secret actually. That's
That's why I played the song just now. Smooth like a newborn.
Oh, are you gonna play it again?
No. Okay. Just kidding. Okay, today we're gonna talk about all the news that has happened since 1st of April. And we're going to talk about this very first thing first, because I think a lot of our audience are very keen to know what has happened and what is happening to this particular episode that, of course, now IRAS is clamping down and, of course, doing a lot of audit. In fact, if you have read this opinion piece, this is on Straits Time. There's some particular stuff that I think is very interesting that I think will be worth your time to zoom in on. So one very interesting thing is that if you scroll all the way to the bottom, this article actually talks about the fact of IRAS having the ability to go all the way backwards. That means it doesn't mean that they are just after the most recent cases. They're actually going to do an audit, and they're going to take the time to do audit all the way, probably starting from 10 years.
2011, which is the additional buyer stamp duty when the first year it was introduced.
Right. Maybe you share with us your viewpoint on this particular article that came out.
Okay, I think if you just read the headline, I think it's a little bit confusing, because I think for most people, right, when they understand 99.1,
Yes.
they are thinking of when you buy a property, you structure it what we call under tenancy in common, meaning that you can own shares according to the percentage that you want. So one spouse own 99%, another spouse own 1%. So eventually they can decouple down the road, 3-4 years down the road, and then the 1% person, once they sell off already, they can buy the next property without additional buyer stamp duty, assuming that this is their first property and they are a Singapore citizen. However, the entire content of this article, they are talking about what we call this part share of the 1%, meaning person A buy 100% of the property already. So assuming I got no property. I'm a Singapore citizen, I buy it under my name, I exercise, so I don't pay any additional buyer stamp duty. And then, once I exercise already, within 1 to 2 weeks, I sell 1% to say Grayce, who owns another property. And the reason why I bring in Grayce is because maybe I do not have the ability to fully finance the entire loan. So I need Grayce to come in because of income to get a loan. However, because she already owned a property, right? So when I do this arrangement, we actually get to save on additional buyer stamp duty. Versus outright me and Grayce buy together, we'll be subjected to a higher, say 17% additional buyer stamp duty rate. And hence, of course, IRAS from this angle, they are talking about not tax evasion. They name it like tax avoidance. Yeah. So you just don't read the headline. They are really referring to the buy at 100%, you sell 1% very, very quickly. And then the government is thinking, from IRAS standpoint, they're thinking, why do you need to sell that 1% so fast? Yeah. So it seems like, you are already intending to do so.
Maybe I think we need to talk a little bit about the genuine cases. Because this so-called technique, I think applies a lot more to the new launches purchase because technically when you buy a new launch property, you do not need to take a loan before you sign your SFP. You can actually take your time to do the loan because it's under progressive payment. There's a little bit more leeway. So I think what has happened is that a lot of buyers actually went probably to do this likely for new launches. There has been, of course, a lot of genuine cases on the ground, whether is it new launch or resale, because a lot of couples, they actually planned this as a longevity kind of thing. They go in at 99.1 and 99.1 has existed for many, many years. Yeah, so they go in for 99.1. Maybe after 2 years or 3 years, they have saved up enough for the next set of down payment for their second property. Then they extract the 1% to buy a second property. This kind of arrangement are genuine cases. And I think IRAS is not after those kind of cases because the rationale why a lot of buyers initially when they buy a resale property, if they put 99.1 is because they want to utilize both persons' CPF and both persons' ability to get a loan. And let's say after 3 years, they have managed to save up enough, they refinance, do a decoupling, and then go and buy a second property. Maybe Grayce, share with us a little bit about what's your thoughts when you first saw this?
So when I first saw the news, I think I was also thinking that it was the traditional 99.1 kind of model. So I was very surprised and shocked. I was thinking about all the clients that we have that are owning in 99.1 and looking for the 1% to exit to buy a second property. But upon further, reading, upon further clarification, then we kind of realized it's to target this kind of tax avoidance, right? Tax avoidance kind of scheme. So I think that in Singapore, it's the cooling measures are there for a reason. The government wants to protect and regulate the market. So when we advise our clients, we also do not want them to do anything that kind of lacks integrity or to avoid this kind of taxes in this way. The ABSD is there because we want to keep the market regulated. We want to protect the supply, and we do not want a particular demographic or certain people to dominate or to own multiple properties and then just keep buying in that sense. Yeah, so the ABSD is there for a reason, and I think that this is just another way that the government is clamping down to regulate the supply and ensure that prices are regulated for the buyers.
Right. And if you look at this article, this very part also explains that those who just want to buy their first homes to live in, so meaning if let's say you're doing a 99.1 kind of arrangement for the property that is your primary residence, you have nothing to worry about because you have the flexibility to hold your asset in unequal shares. This is basically up to the couple's kind of configuration and how they want to structure their holding. So that's totally fine. Jun Wei, do you have any thoughts on this before we move on to the next article?
Yes, actually, when I saw this piece of news, to be honest, I wasn't surprised. In fact, I think some people on the ground, they kind of saw it coming. But I think what Rong and Grayce mentioned as well, this news came out. When this came out, it caused a bit of confusion in the market because I have clients texting me, asking me, does that mean I'm in trouble, But of course, when you read deeper into the matter, they are clamping down on the situations that Rong have brought up, not the legitimate 99.1 kind of structure. So, but another thing I found very interesting about this article was when they talked about the penalties. Because I find that the penalties are quite hefty.
Right.
In fact, the article talks about how the penalty will be if, let's say, found guilty for tax avoidance, the IRAS will claim back whatever tax that should have been paid, plus a 50% surcharge, which is a lot of money. Yeah. And if, let's say, there is late payment to that,
Right.
the penalty can even go up to 4 times as
Right.
much. So I think it's a very hefty penalty. And the article also discussed about how I think some people on the ground, they might be trying to sell off the property in order to get their names out, so that they are not in the books of IRAS. But it also mentions that there is no guarantee that IRAS won't be clamping down on all these arrangements that have been done in the past.
Right.
So it could be a case whereby you sell off the property already, your names are out, and you think that IRAS won't come for you. It could be maybe a few years down the road they come knocking on your door as well, because I think all property transactions, you're supposed to keep all your people up to 5 years as well. If, let's say, IRAS comes with an audit, then you have to show it to them.
Right.
I think in summary wise for the audience, if you are buying a property in uneven shares, 99%, 1%, planning to decouple down the road, you don't have to worry about it. However, if you are buying the property 100% and then you sell off 1% to have financing arrangement and you do not have a very good reason when IRAS investigate or probe, then this will be actually the cases that is being explored at the moment. But I would say that not a lot of people use this strategy. Yeah. So I don't think like it is a major cause of concern. Maybe the other one that will be interesting one will be, say, Singapore citizen and PR, or Singapore citizen and foreigner, but they are married and they buy 99.1% under a matrimonial home. So meaning the 99% is held by the foreigner or the PR of the higher ABSD rate. When they buy that first property, they don't have to pay ABSD because of the matrimonial home. Right? And if they choose to decouple very, very quickly, right, then that I think will also fall into a similar category.
Okay, so we're going to talk about this very interesting article. So there were 2 articles that's brought out in April. One is on ultra-rich Taiwanese setting up family offices here. And of course, on this particular topic on why is Singapore a magnet for Chinese billionaires. What do you think about this? Now, maybe let me just put everybody's attention to here. The total number of family offices here rose to 700 in 2021. Up from 400 in 2020, and in 2018 there were only 50, but right now the number is close to about 1,500. Yeah, and of course, as you can see, since early part of last year, there's already a minimum fund size of 10 million. So I think our government has already raised this, and they're going to raise this even more because they realize there's a huge influx of Chinese family offices being set up here. And but this is surprising because this is on Taiwan, and they talk about the fact on Hong Kong as well. So if you look at what happened was that in 2022, Hong Kong lost 3,000 high net worth individuals while Singapore gained 2,800. What's your first thought of this, Yurong? Please don't tell me that you're thinking where did the balance 200 went to? 那200个人去了哪里?
Okay, so
why didn't all of them come here? Okay.
So the question is, why do foreigners want to set up family offices in Singapore, Melvin?
Yeah, why?
I'm asking you.
Why? Don't ask me. It's all my nuggets on the go. Why? What is...
Okay. So of course, I think like generally, I would still think that Singapore is a safe haven. Naturally, as the Chinese wealth increased over the last few years, there is a need for them to find a way that they can actually park their wealth and diversify their wealth in an international level. And if I'm a foreigner, what will attract me from a Singapore space? Of course, I have heard of funds coming in to participate in the shop houses for the last few years. We also have family offices that are created such that they can actually eventually take part in the commercial shop house spaces. Right. Because this is still a space that you can invest in Singapore properties, you can own land, but you don't have to pay that additional buyer's stamp duty of 30%. We actually, we've increased it all the way until 30%. So I think that is one attraction factor. And of course, I would say that from a real estate market standpoint, Singapore, because of the cooling measures that have been set up for the last 12 years, right? Our market is very, very different, right? So while the whole world is, like battling with high interest rates, you can see that interest rates affect other property markets, other countries, right? In a more, how do I say, like in a more like one-to-one kind of manner. So meaning that interest rate increase, your affordability straight away will reduce significantly.
Yeah, correlation is very
strong. Yes, that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But in Singapore, this correlation is not so strong. Rationale is because total debt servicing ratio were introduced back in 2013. While interest rate is actually under 1.5%, the banks have already been lending at 3.5%. And hence, in general, when interest rate go up, of course, affordability still reduces. For example, we use the recent research that we did was, now banks are using stress tests between 4.5 to 4.75%. If we were to compare using a stress test of 4% to 4.75%, the affordability reduces by 8.5% in terms of the loan amount that you can get, right? So, but of course, it is not as significant as a huge reduction of like maybe up to like 20%, assuming that we are always giving based on the prevailing interest rate at the moment.
Right. Yeah. This is also a macro view of the flow of money. So in our last webinar, we talked about the fact that there's this distinguished how do I say it? What is that? It's not distinguished this classification of soft to harder assets. So if you look at this table that we shared this during our webinar number 5 on TOP versus new launch and resale. Soft to hard is a situation whereby not just on the topic of price elasticity. So when we describe about the elasticity behavior of price to quantity based on the hardness of the asset. So when an asset is harder, supply finds it very hard to rush in, and when you own this kind of asset, you got to enjoy the price appreciation over the years. So for example, if you own a landed property or you own a freehold commercial shop house, when price increase, there's no way that the supply can be increased. So you got to enjoy the valuation appreciation of this particular asset that you're holding. So if you hold a HDB property, when price increase, it attracts government policy immediately to stifle demand and to increase supply, and thus your price then stagnates. Now, this why is this correlated to this article that we're talking about? Is because this is also a behavior on a macro basis that people will want to transfer their wealth and money to somewhere that is safer, to somewhere that is harder. Harder in the sense that is more certain. Government policy is certain. The country is safer. The currency is strong governance, and of course, is welcoming to foreigners. And thus, you get to see Singapore a little bit like, in the past, a lot of people like to park their funds in certain countries, right? Yeah, because of the safe haven status. But now it seems that in this era, in 2022, 2023, why have we gotten this kind of dominant status? And I think it was actually sprouted out from the pandemic. What do you think about this, Jun Wei?
In fact, I agree very strongly with you because when you were posing the question to Rong earlier on, I was just thinking to myself, why is it suddenly that after 2020 season, we start seeing a lot more family offices being set up? You showed the numbers earlier on. 2018 was only 50. Now we're closing to 200, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think it stems from the strong governance that we had coming out of the pandemic. During the pandemic season, every country was facing the same problem. And I think governments worldwide were looking at one another and trying to see what other governments are doing, right? Because it's the first time everyone is dealing with this pandemic. Nobody knows the answer to it, but everybody is watching one another to see who has the best solution. And if they have a solution that works, we follow that and we go down the same road, right? And I think the Singapore government did a fantastic job. Of course, at the start, when cases were flying up, everybody was saying, does the government know what they're doing? Are we safe and all that kind of thing? But I think time and again, the government has proven that they can get problems solved. It might take a bit of time, but eventually the roadmap to getting to the solutions are there. And I think since the pandemic onwards, everybody has seen Singapore as a very stable country. If something goes, something hits the fan, the government has solutions to deal with it.
Right.
And I think that is the main reason why from 2018 onwards, we see a sharp rise in family offices being set up here.
Yeah. Once you set up a family office, what is the next natural progression of the high net worth in Singapore?
I think they will buy real estate.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they'll buy real estate, and this creates a kind of ripple effect. When they buy real estate, possibly they could be thinking about moving their family here as well. And then, that creates a positive ripple effect in the economy, right? Where money is moving into the economy, and then there's more presence of higher net worth individuals as well, which could bring in a lot of businesses, bring in a lot of connections, and it could lend a hand to the existing businesses around as well.
Right.
Yeah.
In fact, when this happens, I mean, that was exactly what happened to the shophouse market, because if you were to look at the amount of shophouses, if we are talking about conservation shophouses, because naturally foreign investors and families, high net worth people that set up family offices here, once they completed their cycle of buying the first property, residential property, likely they might rent first because they want to assess and want to understand a bit more about the residential market here. But once they have their group of advisors here, they start to know people here, they will naturally pay the ABSD, they will buy a home first, they might maybe buy 2 residential properties, and then they will kickstart using their family office to purchase true blue commercial shophouses. I mean, when I talk about true blue, is because shophouses has different categories. There are a mixture of commercial on level 1 and residential on the upper tier level. So foreign investors love the full-blown commercial status shophouses because it does not attract ABSD, and there's no seller stamp duty as well. That is the reason why over the last 2 years, the amount of transaction volume as well as the price appreciation for shophouses has increased so much. Now, another category will be Sentosa Cove. Now, before the pandemic, actually, I still remember the entry terrace house on Sentosa Cove was about 6 million. Right now, you can't find anything at 6 million. Now it's all above 10 million. There has been, of course, a lot of interest from Chinese buyers. There's already stepped up landed homes in Sentosa. I don't have the actual statistics, but based on my intel on the ground, that's what's been happening. And if you look at this is the exact action that will happen. So in fact, I think there's a possibility that private properties, whether is it the CCR ones or whether is it the RCR versions and luxury properties, they will start to flee away from the base tier. And what do I mean by the base tier? The base tier that I'm referring to is this chart here. So maybe Jun Wei, share with us a little bit on your thoughts on this. Now, I feel that in the past, there's a lot of correlation in the performance of non-landed residential, meaning condominiums and apartments, they seems to have a strong correlation on the HDB price movement. But why am I sharing with you this is because I think maybe the average Singaporeans will be asking, yes, okay, a lot of inflow of liquidity from high net worth people into our country, but how is this going to affect me? Right? How is it going to affect my purchasing power for the next home? Because if everybody keeps snapping up private properties, what is going to happen to my dreams and aspiration to own my next private property? Assuming, let's say, they are in the category that they're planning to sell their HDB and upgrade to the next one, right? Yeah. So what do you think is going to cause that divide in pricing? Because now, if we look at the pricing, they are still sticking pretty closely. Let's have a look at these 3. Landed price index is this orange color. This is condos and apartments, the red line. The blue line is the HDB line. First question to Jun Wei. Do you think the HDB line will start to plateau because we had an onslaught of HDB policies that just happened over the last 12 months? What do you think?
I think on the question on whether HDB prices will plateau, my answer to that is I think prices will cool down. Whether it will stay plateau, I'm not too sure, but I think over the past month, we saw 1 month of HDB prices plateauing. But I think on the note of whether HDB prices will plateau or not, I think the acceleration will not be as fast, but the price appreciation will continue to happen at a much slower rate, I believe, because recently the much heated debate on HDB in Parliament has already, the government has came out to say that they are going to make sure that HDB prices remain affordable. And I think also that came at a time where the market is panicking a little bit on HDB prices because over the past year, we have seen a lot of $1 million HDB transact, and people are now worried that what if HDB prices keep rising and I cannot, my next generation can't buy a HDB. Right. And on the chart that you showed earlier on about our baseline, right, which is the HDB properties, that is the baseline that ensures Singaporeans have a high ownership rate. And I think it stems from a big cultural, what's the word for it?
Cultural, is it like the product that we have?
The product that we have, something along the lines, because I think
Okay, so product that we have.
No, what are you trying to say? Are you saying that Singaporeans love to buy properties? Like what?
Yes. Okay. So I think if we draw back to the chart on the
narrative.
If we draw back to the chart on the HDB properties being the base, right?
Right.
That of course was done by the government to make sure that everybody has a home, has a roof over their head. But right now, a lot of young generation, I believe, are looking at their HDB properties as an asset that is supposed to appreciate over the years, and also looking at it as an asset that will help me to move on to my next property, which is the condo segment, the private property segment. And with all these high net worth individuals coming to Singapore, family offices being set up, and they can't buy into the landed market, the only thing they will go for are the luxury properties. And that will, in a way, inevitably spur on the prices for the private segment, I feel. And I think the gap between the private non-landed segment as well as the HDB segment will start to widen a little bit.
Right.
And it will cause a ripple effect down to the HDB market, because now the young couples will be thinking, if I want to move on to my, say, 3-bedder or 4-bedder condominium, I have to cash out a lot more from my HDB property in order for me to make that move. And if I'm not able to exit my HDB at a solid price, there's no way I can move on to the next segment, and that will eventually start to spur HDB prices again. And it could be a case whereby we see the government step in with more cooling measures.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting point that you brought there. But I'll come to the question that I thought of. This was what I was trying to ask everybody. Like, do y'all think this will happen in the next 1 or even 2 years down the road? In fact, I think I'm not sure. Do you think that it will happen over the next few quarters? Because traditionally, their correlation is pretty strong. But with this new season here, if you see all the liquidity flowing in, will this sort of like detach from the HDB base? So that was the question that I was trying to ask. Now, before I pose the question to Grayce and Yurong, just now when Jun was sharing, right? Now, in the past, I don't know whether you all remember, in my parents' day, their mindset of their HDB property is that the HDB property is an asset. That you will earn money. Yeah. And which was why when we were young, our parents would tell us, quickly go and buy HDB, quickly go and buy HDB, because it was positioned as an asset. Yeah, so I was not sure what was the message in the past. But there was a season just about 10 years back that people start to discover about the ballast curve and the CPF restriction, and that your HDB will go to zero by the end of 99 years. That was the new era that HDB is now being message to the public that it is no longer an asset. It's actually more of like a roof over your head, right? So now the narrative has changed on a national basis. And with this, potentially, I think a lot of Singaporeans and young couples and young families, their aspiration is that they want to move to a private property. Because in the past, our parents' era was that our parents are very thankful that they have a HDB. But now the younger generation that's being born, they are already born into HDB properties, private properties. Their natural thing is that they already understand a lot more knowledge and how the assets are behaving. Naturally, their aspiration from a very young age is that, okay, I want to quickly go to a private property, right? So I have two sets of questions here. Maybe you're wrong. First question, do you think this will happen? The detachment.
The detachment. Okay. Maybe we just zoom back a little bit, right? So one of the time that previously that it happened in terms of the separation in terms of HDB prices and condo and landed prices is actually around the 2017 kind of period. So actually HDB, after the slew of policies after 2013, like change of valuation and all that, change in loan to value, etc., you can see actually prices have come down and plateaued all the way until 2020 before the COVID run up. However, in 2017, there was the en bloc trend that actually helped to push up the private segment kind of pricing. I would say that actually, I would not feel that there will be a big detachment in terms of HDB pricing and condo pricing, in the sense that I think like the HDB pricing will be something like what you draw. It will not like plateau as in like a flat line. No, as in like just now that one was good. Something like that. It will not be a flat line, like for example, between 2014 no. Not to 2014 and 2020. Rationale is because we have a new era since 2011 where we have been ramping up a lot of BTO supply. So at the highest peak 25,000, at the lowest peak 17,000 per year. So what happens is, if you just imagine, right, when every year there is a launch of BTO, right, what happens is 3 years later, it will complete in terms of building. 5 more years later, it will reach its minimum occupancy period. Right, so it means 2011 BTO launch, 2019 it will MOP. Of course, there will be some differences in that last 2 years because of COVID. Some of the construction get delayed. So what happens is BTO is very interesting because whenever there is BTO, right, people, because of the concern of older age properties, right, these younger 5-year properties, right, they are always quite popular in general because you get to enter into the resale market at the youngest age. So because of this slew of BTOs, I would say that in the next 5 years, I will still see the HDB property price index will still go up. It will not plateau or come down dramatically unless there is a big policy change. Right. But I would think that generally, definitely, the condo portion, right, will also slowly widen. Because the BTO effect also allows HDB people who came from a BTO segment to upgrade more easily. Because there's equity, it helps to upgrade. So for example, you can see that actually it's very hard to upgrade between 2014 all the way until 2019. When your HDB, when you lose 10% in your equity, it takes a lot of belief to cut loss at 10% of HDB pricing, use your own savings to put in the down payment to buy a condo. But it's very, very easy to do so if your BTO has already made $200,000, $250,000, right? You probably don't even need to come up with much savings. You can just switch. It's easy to switch when you're in profits.
Right. 2026, there's going to be 150 BTO that will be completed. Right? Because that's, 100 to 150. Of course, that might be like a 2025, 2027. It will be around this period.
Yeah.
During this period, which is 2031, there's going to be 150 projects that will MOP. Okay? Now, the question is that by that time, will the amount of margin from the MOP exit price towards the BTO entry price, and of course, for example, if somebody purchases a BTO now, how much is the BTO now?
4-room flat would be like $300,000+. Let's say you are in the outskirts Tengah area. If you are in the central region, like 580
let's
plus.
Let's 450k lah.
Yeah.
Okay. Then when you MOP, how much can you sell?
Actually, usually nowadays, based on the trend for the last 2 years, you almost sell double in value of your BTO purchase price.
Agree.
Generally.
Okay, but I think it has to do with the supply also. Because if we are talking about in an age where there will be so much supply, it goes back to the hardiness of the asset question, right? Because if I do agree that at this current point in time that prices are seeing an increase because the amount that you make from your BTO is able to kind of facilitate that move towards a condo. It can cover your down payment. But if we are talking about in the future, actually I'm of the camp that the profit margin will no longer be enough to cover you to move to a
OCR
private asset. So in fact, I think it will actually be switching between maybe smaller HDB flats to bigger HDB flats, because especially when you own a HDB and in this, years of construction plus the 5 years that you're living in there, likely you will go through some family expansion. So at that time, you'll be looking at space. So let's say you own a 3-room HDB, a 4-room HDB, and then you are looking to move to something bigger because now your family has expanded. The margin for that you have to top up, after you sell your BTO, even if you make, let's say, 200K, I do not think that it's enough to move towards a condo, especially as condominium prices continue to increase. So what I think will happen instead is that the HDB will see a shuffling of assets within the HDB market itself. Yeah, and I think we also do have to consider that there will be a bulk of HDB properties that will now face the Bala curve effect.
Right.
Decreasing in terms of lease, and then what will happen then?
Okay, so Gray's point is that so Yu feels that can I summarize for you that you feel that this do you think this widening will happen?
Okay, what kind of time frame? Because end of the day,
let's say by 2031.
Because you see, end of the day, right, things will move sort of like in form of cycle. There's no like absolute answer, right? So like the time frame is important as well, because during that time frame, it could have widened and then the gap could have closed at the end of a particular time frame.
So wrong question asked. Okay, let's come back to this first. So just now, you point out that most of the BTOs have seen a doubling effect, right? Okay, what do you think? Do you think this doubling will continue? Okay, or maybe just for this illustration, okay,
Yeah.
400,000 to 600,000, is this overbought kind of illustration? Do you think it's okay?
I think it's doable.
Okay,
This is very doable.
now let's calculate what is the down payment needed for property today. Now, what is the cheapest OCR 3-bedder right now?
Quantum wise, I think if you go for like a resale EC, let's say, assuming they are not going for the very old ones, like 20 plus odd years.
Yeah.
Let's say like a resale EC, 5 to 10 years, you are looking at the most compact size outside central region properties.
Yeah.
Probably 1.3 million,
Okay.
but hard to find because these are
Great.
really like the
Okay.
base.
So you're spot on.
But 1.3
million.
to all the way to 1.5 million for the bigger like 3-bedroom premium with additional WC.
Okay, great. So now we're in the year 2023. Now have a look at this property. So one of my associates told me that she was hunting for this property about 1 year ago. You can easily get a 3-bedder for about $1 million. Okay, just about a year back. All right, even if like 2022, you can still get probably about $1 million, about there. Now have a look at the price.
Asking prices.
Yeah, the price has changed in the last 6 to 12 months. Now the reason is because there's so many measures coming in. Firstly, the stress test has increased, TDSL has changed, and to find these kind of low quantum properties, especially if it's a 3-bedder in the OCR region, it is very difficult.
Yep.
Now all the owners right now, they're asking at about 1.3 million, which is spot on. I mean, like there's still some 1.2, but I don't know whether has all this been sold. I mean, this is just an example of the property that has moved. Because if you were to go back to the chart, what is going to happen is that now maybe you can still get a 3-bedder in the OCR region for 1.3, but by the time that we're here, 2031, how much do you think this will be? And okay, let's maybe Jun Wei, can you help me, like at 1.3 million, down payment plus stamp duty 0.29%, how much is that?
377.
377,000. Now, do you think that somebody that sells their MOP HDB this year have 377,000 to put inside this property?
Yeah.
Possible, right? Because with that amount that you exit plus maybe you have already paid down a bit of your loan, a little bit of spare SPF, you can. Now, what is going to happen to 2031? What do you think, Grace? What do you think the price will be in 2031?
Okay, maybe we can look at some of the new launch 3-bedders. So
Right.
maybe what are some projects that we've discussed? Maybe in the
Lentor
OCR
Hill,
region.
Suneka
Botanique.
Residences, Botany.
It's all at 2.3
Okay,
2.3
Botanique,
million.
yes. So if we look at a 3-bedder at Botanique, 1.9.
1.8 plus,
1.9.
compact size, 3-bedder.
Yeah.
So obviously by then, let's say new launch now, right? 3-bedder is at 1.8, for example, 1.8. Then we look at when it TOPs, 3 years down the road, 2026, maybe they will be asking about 2 mil, 2.1. And then, fast forward 5 more years, I think by then you are looking at about 2.5 mil for a 3-bidder already.
For those kind of new launches that was
For
launched.
new launches,
Right.
yeah, for new launches.
What do you think about all this older, I mean like Region View, I don't know, is it like 10 plus, 20 years? Or like all these kind of low quantum ones. In another 8 years time, how much do you think this $1.3 million property would be?
Maybe 1.6, 1.7.
Great. How about you, Rong? What do you think?
The region view?
Yeah.
Don't know.
But the lease will decay also.
I think
Your client is asking you.
region view, right? Of course, right now the asking price is like 1.3 over million.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that it will transact at 1.3 million. But definitely it will be higher than this, like 1.1 million kind of range that
How
was very
old is
transacted.
Region View?
Region View
21
is
years
like
old.
It's 1999,
1996.
1996. It's very old.
Oh,
So it's,
27 years old, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe
Now,
1.5.
I mean, I think we have all like did a lot of analysis before. No matter at what age, even like Mandarin Gardens balance like 58 years, there's still an audience because there will be people at different seasons. There will be audiences that they have just sold off their landed huge condos. They just want to pay off a low quantum condo.
And then comparing to the new launch prices, it suddenly seems affordable.
Yeah, and okay, let's just do a quick search, right? If I were to go to a condo, apply the filter, I put in a 3-beta, apply a filter, and I put in a max price of 1.3 million. What can I buy? What do you think? Why so many properties? 930 properties. That's
Maybe
a
you
lot.
filter the new build one.
Okay, filter the new build, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, new build will already
Build,
fall out.
yeah.
It wouldn't be 3-beta. It will not qualify the 1.3 million. If there's a new build, 1.3 million should buy. Don't need to build already. Just buy.
There's 678 properties. Where are all these properties coming from? Okay.
A lot of resale
1.3 is
ECs.
still okay, yeah, because even like Soul Acres, the 3-bidders are transacting at 1.2.
Okay, let's put in a
So-
size.
Yeah, you
let's
gotta
say
put in a
1,000
size.
square feet. Do you think it's reasonable?
Maybe like
Yeah.
950 square feet is better.
Or 800.
1,000 you are filtering out a
You
lot
just
of
want
the
You just want to increase the amount of supply. Okay. Right now, there's still like 300 over listings across the island. Most of them, I believe, are in the north area, if I'm not wrong. Okay. Maybe if somebody wants to live in, I don't know, just name a district.
District.
27.
What is that?
19.
Are you looking for north or not?
No lah. Okay, let's have a look. What's happening here? Why is it like this? Northeast.
Why is it like this?
What's happening in Northeast area? Why are there only 33 listings left?
Because generally North is right now still like the most affordable region, followed by Northeast, then Eastern and Western, then Central is the most expensive.
Right. So what do you think? What do you think in terms of pricing? You mentioned about $1.7, $1.8 million for this particular property. You wrong, what do you think?
What's the question?
The question is that, so the correlation is that if this is going to be 1.7, how much down payment is needed? Jun Wei, help us a little bit.
Need 30%, no? 510,000 approximately.
About 500,000.
500,000. So
Yep.
what is your viewpoint, Jun Wei? Do you think that, let's say for example, it's $1.7 million, will this group of, or the existing HDB upgrades be able to afford going upwards?
I think if come 2031 and minimally 3 bidders, you're looking at 1.7, 1.8 million, right? For a HDB upgrader to move up to that category, it will be very tough. Like I mentioned earlier on, I think they would then be looking to push as much as they can on their HDB prices,
Right.
just to cash out the most in order to move on to the 3 beta. But I think the prediction that we're making here is what I will go with as well. I think by 2031, 3 betas, you're looking at 1.7 mil minimally. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and also if, looking at the MOP products, right, the HDBs that will MOP, even if they want to push, it is regulated by the supply. And of course, there are so many cooling measures that govern the HDB market. It is a very, it relates back to the hardiness of the asset, right? So every time, if you were to look at currently now, the prices have risen so much during the COVID pandemic. And what happens is that the government instantly brings on the onslaught of measures to protect the HDB market. And, I no longer think that HDB will be an asset that allows you to upgrade into private properties anymore. I don't think that this narrative will be true.
Right.
I don't think that even if you want to sell at a price that allows you to have the down payment to move to a private property, you are still limited by just the vast amount of supply. You have to look at what your neighbors are selling. You have to look at what the area is selling, and especially as a new product, right, there's only that much that you can push, because if you go beyond a certain amount, what will happen is that the eyes will turn into the older products already. Yeah.
Right. So, do you think our private properties, non-landed residential, is in an undersupply situation?
Currently? The question is a bit broad lah. I would say that properties that are of the very comfortable entry quantum is really reducing in supply. But if you talk about in terms of all the wide range of choices and all the budget, then I think it's still okay. If I have a budget up to like 2.5 million to buy a 3-bedder, I have quite a lot of options. But if let's say I'm within that range that, okay, I'm trying to work with something that is at the baseline now, these are often the people that I always mention will be priced out one. Yeah. So I have met a couple of clients previously, like in my last 11 years. So what happens is sometimes at a specific juncture, everything is just nice and you are able to go to the next segment.
Right.
But of course, when everything is just nice, sometimes we will feel that scared. Correct. And what happens is sometimes when you miss this, I always mention it's like, like you want to go home and then this is the last train. You missed it already. And then there is no next train for you. Right. So unless something specific happens in your lifetime. So for example, I decide, okay, I will grab home. Then if not, I will just have to stay overnight. I will just to be comfortable, be at that situation. Yeah, so I will generally say that for people who are, in the capacity, you have the capacity, and now you can go to the next segment. And the portion that you're looking at is really the base part. I think these are the people that it will be good if you do your financial prudency check and everything is okay. I think it is time to make the jump.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is the borrowing capacity in terms of the income level. And we're talking about the current stress test level at about 4.5%. And this is the amount of loan that, based on this income, that a person can loan up to. So if, let's say we're talking back at that same property, Regentville, right? About $1.3 million. Naturally, at $1.3 million, 75% loan is about $900,000 of loan. You need to have at least a 10K income. So if we are talking about in future, if everything is going to be about 1.7 for even an old condominium in the OCR region, you have to qualify for a loan around the range that you must earn at least this income, right? And of course, this is apart from maybe your car loan and stuff like that. So we have to meet a few key criteria. Number one is that firstly, the family have to have that set of $500,000 down payment. Secondly is that the borrowing capacity must adhere to the income level. So do you think that this in future, in terms of aspiration of average Singaporean family, this is going to be an issue in future based on this? If let's say the family aspire to move to a private property, do you think this will be harder and harder to reach? Because this is linked to that topic that there are so many family offices starting up here. There are foreigners coming in. We're a safe haven. We're attracting a lot of attention and liquidity, and people want to buy up our properties here. What do you think?
Definitely. I always think that it will be that the HDB upgrading story will not be a story to tell in the next maybe 10 years. Yeah, I feel that the only people who will truly be able to enjoy asset progression are those in the private market. Yeah, that is my belief lah. Of course, I think maybe in the future it is time to stop looking at HDBs as an asset for upgrading.
Right.
It is more of to look at HDBs as a roof over your head, as a strategic move to take care of the masses, as something to ensure that we still have high ownership rates. But if we are looking at HDBs to make our first pot of gold, I genuinely do not think that will be the case. I think that the people who will be able to afford and upgrade from smaller private properties to bigger private properties are those who are already in the private non-landed segment. They are already invested in a product, and they are able to enjoy asset progression from there. But of course, I think it's not saying that, you cannot buy a BTO, you cannot buy, because that is what a BTO is for. It's for affordability. It's for encouraging family planning. It's for allowing young people in the country to own their first asset, to own their first home, right? So not necessarily for asset progression, but mainly to have a roof over your head, so you can start your family. You can enjoy your family planning in that sense.
Right. Okay.
Actually, I'm much more optimistic about the entire market, right? So for me, I think it will be a norm that HDB prices will be $1 million eventually. But of course, I say everything will move together in tandem, right? So we don't just look at like one segment and then we think, this is expensive. Because at the end of the day is, nowadays, we can have degree holders after they graduate. They are no longer drawing that $2,000 plus $3,000. Let's say in Melvin's era. But then, okay, in my era also, like same thing. Like okay. Anyway, so nowadays you have like in like those like tech jobs, like people can get paid 6,000 to 8,000 as a fresh grad. So the property prices in terms of, let's say, HDB affordability medium pricing, right, will always sort of like be correlated to what is the medium income kind of things. Because that's how BTO will be priced, about 4x a median income household family. So when the government do the job right in controlling the BTO pricing, the resale pricing for HDB prices, right, will be correlated, and that's how you can control the resale pricing. Because at the end of the day is that like, how can resale prices keep going up when, let's say, government is trying to, control the BTO pricing? It will not, because as long as you can wait, it wouldn't make sense for you to pay so much of a premium. Yeah, correct. So what happens is, end of the day, when HDB prices hit 1 million, so right now it's 1 million for like the really, really good location HDBs. Yep. If let's say eventually we hit $1 million as a median price, it will just mean that maybe starting pay everybody is 15K. Like, it's also part of inflation, causing money to look big, but it's not as big. It's just like, nowadays you're like, when I was in primary school, like,
you were very agitated.
When in primary school, right?
The ice kacang was 20 cents.
No lah, I'm not so old. So what happens is, when I was in secondary school, one of my classmates actually inspired me in the sense that he said, I want to be a banker. And I said, why? He said, like, banker, I can make 10K a month. Then that amount stuck in my head. And so like...
Then why aren't you a banker now?
I'm not a banker, but I also... never mind. I'm not a banker. But generally, the 10K stuck in my head, right? So, in summary, nowadays, when you make 10K, it's not the same as the 10K at that point of time, right? So it will be equivalent to like close to about like a 20K at the moment, because of like how money has eroded, right? So we just don't look at the absolute amount. So in short, I have more faith that the condo and HDB pricing will not like eventually just separate in that way. Reason is because in the housing segment, right, the government, HDB control to make sure HDB segment is affordable. But the private condo, right, the reason why are we doing cooling measures is because they want to make sure that as a nation, right, we cannot have too much of like the division of rich versus not rich lah. Okay, there will be a lot of social problems, and then it will not be healthy also. And so if you look back at the past of history, at the end of the day is that I see that in times gaps will open up, gaps will also close. And the opening and the closing of gaps actually tell you when is a better asset class for you to be in. So for example, right now you can see that because of acceleration of the HDB graph, this one, the index actually shows the relative strength of growth in that particular time frame, right? So if you can say HDB and non-landed, even though now we think like condos are very expensive, but the gap is actually closing as compared to, for example, 2017, 2018, 2019. So it just means that is a better segment to be in. If let's say landed and condo prices are like the gap is going down, then it's a good opportunity for you to go up to landed as well. For example, so that's how I will see it.
Sure. If I may just add one last point to Yurong's point, right? I think it's a good point, and I think like what Yurong mentioned, it will diverge, but it won't have too big of a gap. But I think another reason why it won't have too large of a gap is because, like what Yurong mentioned, cooling measures are put in to cool the prices for the private segment. What if down the road we see, I don't know whether it will happen or not. What if down the road we see that the government put a ban on foreign purchases in Singapore?
Very unlikely.
Yeah. I mean, unlikely, but we've seen countries have done it, like for example Canada. they imposed a 2-year ban on foreigners purchasing properties there because they just don't want the properties to escalate crazily.
But that's why we have HDBs. You know what I mean? That's why like 80% of our stock is on the HDB properties. That or 75%. That's precisely why.
Yeah.
Because that segment of the market is protected. But it will not make sense to regulate that for the private non-landed, which only hovers at about like 21%. So I really do not think that those kind of cooling measures will arise. And what we are saying is that the cooling measures now are not even enough to deter the foreign buyers. So the 30% is not enough to deter them, which goes to show that as the political stability maintains and the reputation of the country increases, it is just going to be so. I think that the foreign ownership and also the rising wealth will only push the private property prices higher.
So I think one thing to mention, right? Because I think the audience would be confused. Say, hey, y'all say like HDB, y'all sell HDB go to condo, right? If you go to a 99-year condo, isn't it the same thing when it goes to balances 0 years? It will still be 0, ma.
Yep.
Right? So that is an important point. So I always mention, of course, yes, all 99 years property will always go down to $0. But important thing, there's some minor differences between a 99-year HDB versus a 99-year lease condo. Because, number one, I always mention that in terms of the HDB segment, right, you do not have the leverage of maximizing the equity that has been built up in your HDB. So, for example, if your property has been fully paid already or you have paid down a loan, paid down your outstanding loan significantly, there is this portion we call equity. You can't go to the bank and say, I want to draw out this equity for other usage. So, because this is a closed mortgage. But in terms of 99-year leasehold property, the beauty is that even if you don't sell the property, as long as there is an equity built up, I can always go to the bank, assuming that my borrowing capacity is there. I can say, because it's an open mortgage, and I can say like, okay, this is the collateral. Can I push out some funds? And these funds can be utilized. So cash flow is very important. Second thing is, as a condo, at least, as a private property, at least you have the liberty to have some control over whether you want to the entire project to go for an en bloc as a form of exit.
Yep.
But in the HDB segment, SIRS, which is Selective En bloc Scheme, that one is determined by the government if let's say there is a good usage of the land because they have to spend a lot of money to replace the housing for people who are displaced. Of course, we did mention about this VERS, which is a voluntary en bloc scheme. This one we yet to see because it's only for when its balance is 30 years, so the community can also say, hey, we also rally and say we want to, if there's enough voting, people want to en bloc.
Okay. Thanks, Rong. Okay, coming back to this. I think we debated a little bit. Okay, so I think this whole thing started right because we were trying to ask each other, what do you think will be the divergence and okay, so to sum up, Grayce, do you think this detachment will happen?
I think that the chasm gap will happen not only for landed and private,
so you think this will happen?
For HDBs also.
So do you think this will happen? Yes or no?
It will open and close lah.
Okay, great. How
but
about
of
you?
course, the gap will be bigger than the previous gap.
Okay, how do you think?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, actually for me, I think that this has a very, very high chance to happen. The reason is because we just need to take a look at the amount of policies that is stifling this and the amount of supply that's coming in. And not to forget that this particular type of property is the only one that opens up to international audience. So this is the only type of property that everybody can buy. Okay, coming back, just now you posed a very interesting thought is that will our government come out in future a very hard ban that to say that, okay, let's pause for 2 years, no purchase by foreigners, right? Yep. But the 30% is already hard enough. And then Grayce brought for the fact that 30% cannot even deter. Let's have a look at the amount of percentages that's being owned or not being owned, that was being purchased. Now, have a look at new launches. New launches 2018 to 2022, foreigners 7%, 6%, 4%, 4%, 7%. So they still pay the ABSD, right? So even for last year, 30%, 7% of foreigners still pay ABSD. Of course, over here, there might be a percentage of US citizens or from Finland and stuff. Now, resale 66433. And then, of course, you have all sales. Now, let's just take all sales. The surprising thing is that I think we are not really dependent on the foreigners' purchase. I mean, like even on a self-sustaining basis, this is an extremely strong percentage. If you look at the amount of transactions that we have for condos, it's about 10,000 resale transactions per year, 10,000 new launch transactions per year. So this is actually like a self-supporting kind of theory already. And then let's come back to this one last time, and then we conclude this part. Actually, the intent of asking this question is that we talk about the fact that now, if you go for a BTO versus a resale, okay, so we're trying to ascertain if, let's say, the young couple is doing well, okay, maybe both young couples are doing tech jobs, doing well, they can take the loan, right, for a private property. Let's talk about the down payment. What is the fastest way for a young couple to accumulate the down payment? Is it through a BTO HDB or a resale HDB? What do you think, Jun Wei?
I think my answer would be, I mean, if you're
Which
talking
one has a
about
higher
fastest way,
Yeah, higher chance.
fastest way for me would be the resale route. You don't have to wait for construction. You can immediately buy and you start your journey towards MOP. Right. If you're buying the BTO segment, of course, over the past 2 years, we have seen that BTO projects are taking a little bit longer time to build. Right now, the government is saying they are trying to shorten the building time. But it's still a good 3-4 years wait before you kickstart your journey towards MOP.
Right.
So I think if you want the fastest way there, it will be the resale route.
I mean, okay, let me reiterate the question. Is the fastest route to accumulate that $400,000 to $500,000 of down payment to move up to the OCR segment? Which one is the fastest route? And okay, maybe let me rephrase the question. Which has a higher chance? Is it a BTO or resale? Okay, by the way, anyway, just to sidetrack a little bit, yesterday I was talking to somebody. They're going to collect keys this year. BTO. 7 years of waiting. It has been 7 years. The first purchase date was in 2016? 2023. And of course, that was being brought on by the delay. Hopefully, I mean, it will speed up from now on, about 3 to 4 years. Okay, coming back to it, which one has a higher chance? I mean, there's no right or wrong lah.
I still feel it's the resale segment.
Okay, great. Resale, great. How about Grayce?
Okay, I think that if your question is which one has the highest chance for appreciation, right? I think it's BTO. But it's not about which one has the highest chance. It's by then, will this amount that you earn even be enough for you to buy or not? So it's the opportunity cost that matters. So resale is the best and is the best way because the amount that you earn, the differential between the BTO as well as the resale will not cover that 5 years more. Okay, maybe not 5, maybe that 3 to 4 years more of the construction time. The prices for the private will have risen too much already.
Fantastic perspective. Okay, resale or BTO?
BTO. Okay, sure. BTO very specific as in like BTO in the similar market context, right? So of course, like BTO will give you a little bit more capital appreciation compared to like resale. So for example, in we talk about like risk reward lah. So general, for example, in 2014 to 2019, actually if you own a resale, it's flat line one. You don't make any money. So the only way to make money, the only way for appreciation that you get right from HD resale prices is the grant from the government. Okay, assuming that selling and buying price is the same. But of course, BTO, you will have made some profit. But of course, this is assuming that when I say BTO, it's only specific BTO where waiting time is 3 years. So meaning your opportunity cost, you're not buying into like high-rise BTOs that are like 40 stories high, it will take like 5-6 years to construct. No, that will be too much opportunity cost. You're not going into like a PLH kind of scheme where you have like a 5-year construction time, 10 years of MOP. So I'm not talking about this kind of BTO. I'm really talking about like BTO, cheap to enter, and preferably if let's say they are in like upcoming township, you will have better acceleration. For example, like Canberra previously. Yeah, so and of course, assuming your age, you are about below 23 years old, 24 years old when you apply for BTO, it makes sense because anyway at that point of time, you don't have much. Let me finish. Wait.
Commit the rest of their lives to someone.
Okay. While you're talking, I'm tapping out this, okay? Because I just want everybody to have a sense of time. Okay, sense of time. Okay. Come.
Can I continue?
Of course.
So what happens is, of course, I mentioned if you are 22, 24, you know, like you know you're ready to settle down, right? Then I think like it can make sense. But of course, if let's say you are 30 and then you want to apply for BTO, then I think maybe the opportunity cost will outweigh. Yeah. So I would say that the answer depends on what kind of BTO you are buying and what is your age. Wow, very complete answer.
Very good. Because this is a very important topic. I think it will help our audience, especially the young couples that are planning for this. So what Jun Wei, Rong, Grayce have just shared is that we cannot just look at one perspective, because if we are just talking about which one has the highest chance for gain, naturally, my answer is that BTO has the highest chance for gain because you enter at the lowest price, is a subsidized price, where your exit is brand new at 5 years. You have a good chance to exit. A lot of audience are waiting for the MOP products. The only thing is that it will then spend close to 11 years of a life in order to allow you to exit and enjoy that gain, because this has technically 2 cycles built in. Because if let's say you were to go for resale HDB, once by 2028, you already have fulfilled it.
5 years.
Yeah, it's 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah, so we also have to add in the second perspective, is that time is the thing that you cannot buy back. And if by then, by 2031, your aspiration has always been that for the 11 years that you wanted to upgrade to a private property, you have to take into consideration the difference between 2028 and 2031. What is going to happen to the condo prices? Will you be priced out because of that waiting? So I think these are some things that you have to add the 2 portions together. Just now you mentioned one point, just to clarify for everybody. He was talking about the fact that if you buy a resale, the only thing that you can make, if let's say price is the constant, so let's say you buy a resale at $600,000, you take a grant of 120k from the government.
Now got more grant.
Yeah, now got more grant. How much is it?
80k for 4-room and below.
No, actually he's referring to if your
average
max grant can be up to 190k, but usually I would say average.
There lah, 120, 100.
You won't take 120k lah.
Maybe it depends on your income level.
80k first timer grant.
Yeah.
Plus maybe if you are staying 4 kilometer, I would say 100k.
Okay.
That one is the safe rate.
First timer grant is what?
First timer the grant 80,000 below.
Okay.
Let me open for you. Oh, okay. Nice.
So what Euro was trying to say is that if after your MOP of 5 years, you still exit at 600,000. What is going to happen is that this 100k belongs to you because it is being priced into your CPF. And the 100k is basically retained in your CPF when you sell the property. So technically speaking, you only have bought this property at $500,000 at this initial period. And when you exit, if you manage to sell back at the same price, even though there's no appreciation, that 100k is for you to keep.
Yep.
So this is like the inbuilt appreciation because of the grant. Now, coming to this, maybe let's ask our producers. Dan.
Yes.
What do you think? What are your thoughts like on all this, about the HDB prices, the BTO and all that kind of stuff? Will you buy a BTO or MOP if assuming that you're going to get married this year?
Assuming I'm getting married this year,
yes,
I would buy a BTO.
Right, why?
Because I guess it's been proven that you will definitely make money after reaching that 5-year MOP period.
Right. Are you worried about the weight?
He's still young.
I mean, let's say you want to settle down with your fiance this year, and you're going to apply a BTO. But let's say HDB tells you that, hey, you got to wait 5 years for the construction period. Now, the next 5 years, what is your plan for you and your fiance? Like, where will y'all stay and all that kind of stuff?
I think probably my wife will move into my home.
Okay.
I will. I think definitely along the way we will like switch rotation, alternate our living situation.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. So your main decision factor is because you think that BTO has a higher chance of appreciation.
Yes.
Great.
Correct.
So you will not consider resale.
I will not.
Very clear cut.
But I ask you, you want the appreciation for what? That means this amount of money, what do you want to do with the appreciation?
Of course, to upgrade to
Correct.
Yes.
So this extra 5 years, right, of time that you wait for the construction, you are waiting for this amount to upgrade. So do you think that in 5 years, the market would have moved so much that this extra that you get from the BTO will not allow you to upgrade. If your goal is to upgrade.
You see,
know?
I say whatever situation, right? In that context, right, you will be stuck anyway, whether is it resale or BTO. But maybe Dan is very smart. He might go for the open booking, and then he's very lucky, and then he got into a BTO that will collect keys in 1 year and 2 years time. So like, let's put into perspective that of course if you say like five years of waiting time plus 5 MOP, of course I think like resale HDB, maybe you only make by grant. But because one thing to note is when you are in the golden age of 25 years to about 32 years, your income acceleration can be super quick. And sometimes you can get out of the MOP period earlier, right? Then you can utilize your savings that is built up from your income increase. So that answer depends. If let's say you are very serious with your partner already, then you will go for resale one because you want to settle down and have kids, right? And this one you're still testing, you're not sure whether you want to settle. Then you have the BTO, you wait for 3 years, then you can see how things go without committing to it.
How about Cephas?
Honestly, I think we will go for BTO, not because of the appreciation, but more because it's the more affordable option that we have. Yeah, because I think the main point that we are all struggling with is more of the down payment portion. Yeah, so that in itself would already curtail that, the resales one, unless you really have that financial capability, then definitely resale is an option. But if not, I think we'll just take whatever that is available, like BTO wise, because it's together with the grants and everything else, that is more affordable in terms of like what we can afford. Then the appreciation at the end is more of a like bonus to us. Yeah,
I think makes sense. I think the that is one thing that we need to think about.
The resale probably also have grant to support the down payment.
Yes.
I think what a lot of young couples are worried about on top of Cephas' point is the COV as well.
Right.
I think, but if you can buy a resale property, right, perhaps it will be more worthy to look at the bigger resale, like because then you might open up to those downgraders as well when you want to exit, which gives you the COV component, which gives you a higher possibility of earning from that, right? But Cephas brought up a fantastic point of view, which is that sometimes it's not about, which one can make me the most money. It's which one I can buy now. Which one can I afford now? Yeah, so that's something to think about as well. Yeah, thanks.
And of course, the lower quantum HDBs might fall into the category of very old kind of HDB in terms of age, right? How about Gwen? Why do you decide to buy a BTO? Well, have you ever considered a resale property?
Me? I did not consider because I think my parents went through the resale as the first property. Then they're like telling me don't ever buy resale because you earn lesser. The appreciation is lesser as compared to a BTO. Yeah. But the reason why I BTO so early is because of the waiting time. Yeah, but I really agree with what Cephas said also. Sometimes it's not about the appreciation. The location that me and my boyfriend chose was because of the location. Like it's in between both of our parents' house. Yeah.
I think that's also one point that is one of the main factors of consideration is actually the location. Like a lot of times, like when my friends who got BTO also, that they chose the location because that's where they live or like that's roughly the area that they want to stay in. So they're usually looking at that. Then they look at the options that they have, which at the end of the day, most of them will gravitate towards the BTO side instead of the resale. Yeah, but the wait time wise, so far from what I see with my friends also, not really a big concern. Like it's okay to wait. Like for them, it's fine if they will have to bunk in with their like families or what for the time being while their place is being built and stuff.
Right. Great. Yeah, I think end of the day, what is available now is that there are choices. Definitely, you can go for resale, you can go for BTO. There are grants on both spectrum. It's really about preferences as well. Yeah, and the last thing that we want to talk about for today, we just ended our webinar talking about sort of the behavior in terms of average gain of whether is it new launch resale or TOP properties at different regions across a 4-year period of starting from 2014 all the way to 2018 in terms of entry point and exit point. Why are you laughing?
I just realized Yurong's face.
Is it this one?
No, I'm looking at the numbers and suddenly I see his face.
Fantastic screenshot.
Okay. This, of course, coincides. So if you have missed our webinar, the one that we talked about, the out of real estate investment, we actually deep dive into a lot of very complicated charts. Yeah, but the end of the day, I think what our audience walked away was to learn how to compare disparity at different seasons, and there's no true answer. Maybe we won't brush through this portion. I'll just give a quick explanation on this and in order to bust some myths in the market.
I think so. If you look at the different regions across different time periods of purchasing and exit over a 4-year time gap, there is no strong answer on whether new launch or whether resale was stronger in any season from an average standpoint. Because of course you will see some of the areas where you see more like 26 to 40-year-old region actually be like sort of like the performer that actually gain at least 10% over a 4-year period. And this could be attributed sometimes because it is en bloc for that kind of age group. It could also be because the disparity between the new launch at that point of time compared to the resale at this age, there is a really good enough gap. And hence, the older properties perform. And you can see there are also some areas where, for example, 2015 to 2019, new launches in Northeast, everything perform. And a lot of times because...
I'm so sorry, can I interrupt you? What
Sure.
is can you explain to the audience what is 26 to 40?
Oh yeah, okay. Thanks for pointing out. Because basically we're talking about what kind of segments actually gives you, good enough performance over a 4-year period. So new launch, of course, it means that you buy new from the developers. We also have TOP. TOP meaning that generally you buy plus minus before the owners have collected key, before the project actually achieve the completion status. And then we actually have different groups, like for example, resale, where it's less than 10, meaning the balance, the age of the property from when the lease started is less than 10 years. Then we have 11 to 25 in terms of the age, 26 to 40, and then above 40.
Right. Thanks, Ryong. And we have some very latest juicy charts. So we did 2 lines of comparison. The first line is basically from the last new sale. That means the very, very last month that new sale was being conducted, all the way to CSC period. And we then did a 12 months period from CSC into the resale era. That means in the next 12 months after the project receives the CSC, what has happened to the resale pricing in terms of percentage change and PSF change. And we try to compare backwards and forwards. So basically what we're trying to ascertain over here is that, is it better to sell sub-sale during the sub-sale period, during the TOP period, or should you wait until you receive full CSC completion and then you wait for the resale to happen? Maybe share with us a little bit about the definition of new sale, TOP, sub-sale, and CSC.
Okay, so new sale is essentially as long as you buy from a developer, URA will lock it down as a new sale. This is assuming that the project hasn't achieved its completion status. A sub-sale basically happens when you are buying from an owner that has already bought direct from the developer, and they sold it before the project achieved the completion status. Okay, so let's talk about the definition of completion status, because a lot of people will understand the part of what we call TOP, temporary occupation permit. So when the project finished construction, assessed safe by BCA, they will issue this temporary occupation permit to the developer, which allows the developer to actually start issuing keys to the owners. Okay. However, the project hasn't been certified as complete yet because there is still a 1-year warranty period. And after basically the developer has sort of take care of all the full responsibility with regards to all the defects, then they can go and apply for the completion status, which is the CSC that you see on the graph right now. And CSC usually I would say plus minus approximately it will be 9 months from the TOP date. Okay. So a sub-sale transaction, right? As long as the property is transacted not from another owner before completion status, it will be classified as sub-sale, meaning that If the person sell before TOP, it's a sub-sale. If the person sell after TOP, before the project complete, it's also a sub-sale. But once the project completes, all transaction will be classified as resale by the URA.
Great. Thanks for the explanation. Now, let me pose a question to Jun Wei. Now, Jun Wei, just by looking at this, prick your brains a little bit to share with our audience. So, for the context of TOP, in case our audience is a little bit confused, because maybe this is your first time going for a private property, let me just put in this TOP. Now, TOP is the part that you collect your keys if you're the first owner. So, basically, first owner, collect keys. If you sell after TOP, within a 9 months to a 12 months period, usually this period, let's just take it as 9 months. There's usually a 9 months period from TOP towards CSC. Okay, so let's have this over here. Now, so basically I asked our research team to assist us with this chart, and after we talk about this, we will end today's banter session. I think it's a very fruitful session. Now, first is to see, is it worth to squeeze with the crowd at the show flat at the first weekend of launch? Okay, so if you were to buy in April 2015, what's going to happen is that you can buy averagely at 1288 PSF. Now, you see an F here. F basically means average PSF of new sale transactions occurred in the first month. So averagely, all the first time owner bought 1288 PSF. Now, some of them bought in the last month with the balance units. Now, the balance unit basically under G definition, average PSF of new launches occurred in the last month, which is February 2020, 1548. So basically, the developer raised the price. And there was an appreciation of 20.14%. Now, this is a phenomenon for some projects because if you were to be the first mover advantage, until the last unit has been sold, naturally the developer has helped you to appreciate by 20%. Okay? Now, from here, we talk about the final unit that has been sold. If you see the C definition, this PSF is a bit different from this PSF because it is the average PSF of all the new sale transactions for the entire spectrum here. We palm it here. Okay, so averagely, most owners, they bought around this price, about 1,003 PSF, okay, averagely over the past years. And we're trying to think, if you are the owner that have bought into a new launch, should you sell at TOP, slightly before TOP, or during these 9 months? Because if you were to sell within this pocket of window, you likely can sell around 1486 and you likely have made about 15%. Or should you wait further for another 12 months, which from this point to this point, it could be close to about 21 months for you to make a totality of 19%. So is 15% better or 19% better? That's what we're trying to decide. Now, Jun Wei, if you were owner of Botanique at Bartley, at which point would you sell?
Okay, before I talk about when I will sell, right? I think I just want to discuss very briefly on the entry first.
Sure.
Because if you look at the timeline below, new sale within the first month, 1,288 PSF, compared to if you bought within the last month, 1,548 PSF.
Yes.
During the course of the sale, developers will naturally slowly increase the price. And I think if you see a project, and you like the project, and the signs are telling you that you want to go for this project, it might be wiser to enter earlier. I brought up this point also because I have an experience with a client who was looking at a certain new launch project. Can I mention the name of the project?
Sure, of course.
Yeah, so I'm referring to Key Residences.
Okay.
So Key Residences is a very interesting project because when they launched that time, there was no MRT within the vicinity of the project. And owners who bought in at the 2020 period, which was the year that they launched, I think they bought in at about 1,007, 1,008 PSF. And come 2022 or 2021, there were signs of the government teasing an MRT station being announced within the vicinity of Key Residences. And true enough, late last year, or was it early this? I think it was late last year, Maju MRT station was announced right outside the project along the Cross Island line. So the moment that happened, what happened on the ground was the developers immediately stopped sale. Within a span of 48 hours, they relaunched the remaining units for sale, and there was an increment of 200 to 400 PSF difference.
Yeah, I think actually because of this, this was the exact reason why we wrote this article.
Yes.
This was after you shared with us what has happened,
Yeah.
right? So we asked our article team to write this. Okay, please continue. Sorry.
Yeah, so I think if there's a particular project that is that you're interested in, it would be wiser to go in earlier than to wait out.
Right.
Of course, then the owners who bought on the first day of launch would be very happy lah.
Yeah, this was the pricing that Jun Wei is talking about. Since before the announcement. Just have a look at what happens in 7 days after the MRT is being announced. It's like immediate. If you imagine you have bought on 13th of September, in 8 days' time you have made about 200 over thousand.
Correct. Right. Yeah, so I just wanted to bring up the entry because of this example.
Right.
On your question on when to exit, I think it depends on a couple of factors. Number one, are you purchasing this property purely for capital appreciation? Number two, are you looking at this property as a rental play kind of strategy?
Right.
If you're looking at a rental play strategy, then of course, the moment you TOP, you won't be selling it. You will do your defects check, maybe do a bit of renovation or whatnot, get a tenant in, and then wait out. Maybe after 12 months or 24 months of holding or holding for rental, and then you decide to exit. That's one way. But if you're looking at it from a capital appreciation standpoint, right, it might not be a bad decision to sell upon TOP.
Why?
I think because at TOP is when the TOP effect, which a lot of us have been talking about, is the strongest. The moment, I feel, if you wait out after the TOP or after the CSC, when units start transacting as sub-sale and eventually in resale, you are then entering into a time frame where the owners of this project is like a mixed basket now. You have owners who entered at launch, which is the lowest PSF. You have owners who entered on the last month of the sale process. You have owners who entered at sub-sale. That also means to me now, the race is, I just need one owner, right, to sell at a very low price.
To bring down the valuation.
Correct. To bring down the valuation.
So what you're saying is that this 15% is good enough for you.
Yes.
And you'd rather shift to the next asset.
If my strategy was capital appreciation, I would think the 15% is good enough.
And this 4% for another 12 months is not worth it.
Yeah, not worth it.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing. Grayce, what's your perspective?
Okay.
How would you advise an owner at Botanique at Bartley if we can go back in time and they pose you this question?
Okay, so I think these graphs are fantastic. However, I think that they actually only speak to those pure investor buyers. Because actually, if you are buying for own stay, that means you are looking at the larger bedroom types. Why are you vlogging this?
Let's continue, sorry.
Okay, so if you are like buying the larger bedroom types, actually it's unlikely that you will exit it's unlikely that you will exit upon TOP or CSC. So it's actually quite I think that these charts only represent the smaller bedroom types or those that are purely buying. That means I just want to buy for investment. I have no intention to rent out. I have no intention for own stay. So I do feel that it's actually pretty skewed towards the smaller bedroom types, because I feel that if you are owning something of a bigger bedroom type for family, for own stay, let's say a 3-bedder or 4-bedder, it will be worth it to wait it out. And then it will go beyond this 1 year of resale actually. So the statistics for the growth of these units are not represented in these graphs, because those family types, right, will at least stay for 3-4 years.
Right.
So this graph does not encapsulate that 12 months is not enough for me to stay upon CSC to enjoy the house. Then when I sell, right, actually the profit margin will be much bigger, because these units will be in demand for people buying for own stay, not just buying to rent out.
Right.
Yeah, so I feel that if I were to just look at this graph for purely investment, then definitely I think like what you said, CSC is good enough for me. Even TOP is good enough for me when I've waited out for the physical product to happen, and then for the physical product to be able to be enjoyed,
Right.
then I just let it off, because this will cater to a group who wants something that is completely brand new. Because when I sell it in, let's say, 12 months, the reason why the appreciation is not that much as well could also be due to the fact that there is
More competition.
more competition, and also it's not a brand new one.
Right.
You've already stayed in it, or you've already rented it out. Yeah, so pure investment, then definitely CSC, there's no issue. But these graphs do not account for those own stay family types that they actually stay, enjoy for a few years, maybe 3 years past TOP, and then they sell, and this is catering to those that are really interested to buy for their own families, but they still want something that is relatively brand new.
Fantastic.
I think the stats are not...
Thank you. Now, Yurong, another question for you is that if, let's say, this is a very common question on the ground. So what happens is that if a couple, a family, they bought this 2015 April, bought 3 billion. And the day of collection of keys, they start to realize that, hey, this 900 plus square feet, 3 billion is not sufficient for me and my family, right? And what happened was that they then, and by the time 2020 comes, they already have the income ability to move to, let's say, a landed property. So that 5 years period, their income increases, and they are pondering, hey, should I exit now in the year 2020? I made about a 15%. But I heard from my friends that, after 12 months, maybe I can earn more. Do you think I should sell now and buy a landed, or maybe wait another 12 months to sell and buy a landed? What do you think?
Okay, 2 segments. Point 1 is I want to just let the audience know that doesn't mean that you buy at the very, very initial state of launch, meaning that you buy the best price. The first mover advantage not apply to all new launches. If the developer launched wrongly at the pricing, and they launch at a very fat profit margin, realize that the percentage of sales is not good, there have been plenty of case studies that actually they reduce the pricing. So first mover advantage in those scenarios wouldn't make sense. But there are also developers, like for example, Botanique at Bartley, Sensible, Oasis, some of these projects, the developer launched at a very attractive pricing. And then those people who came in at the first mover, they actually managed to profit because the developers plan it properly, they can stagger the price increase. It helps you to build up your valuation. So it is not always first mover advantage is the best. Point 1. Point 2 is to the question on whether to exit before TOP, at the point of TOP, or 1 year after TOP. Right? I would say that the most important consideration is more on your own internal factors than the factors of the property as the first line of consideration. Point 1 is, today, if I switch at the point of TOP, does it allow me to switch into a much better portfolio? If the answer is yes, then you switch. Because holding on to the property for another 1 more year, the price gain will not be better and to like a better switch. How do we know that if it's a better switch? Better switch, very, very hard to ascertain. But for simple context, if let's say today my portfolio is $1 million, right? Maybe because at the point of time, maybe I can only buy a $1 million property. And after I have a TOP already, actually now I can, my loan ability, my income allows me to buy, let's say, a $2.5 million property. Then switch. Because it is very, very clear cut. The increase in the portfolio value, right, will allow you, the $2.5 million property, right, if you buy the correct one, will appreciate much more in the next 1 year compared to holding on to this property that you bought at $1 million. So, number one, it really depends on whether you can switch to a much better portfolio. And how do you determine it's a much better portfolio? Simple way is it a much significant higher value, or is it a much bigger property type, as the easy way to decide. And I would say that generally also the other thing will also be which life stage of the property wealth building are you at. If you are still at the growth stage, you can still increase the portfolio value, then of course you will switch, right? But of course, if let's say you're in the consolidation stage, where you don't actually need to make any major moves because the major moves are already done. So whether you do it 1 year later, you're not going to increase your portfolio significantly, then it's good to have a rental play when the let's say, like last year, or like this year, even for now, you can get good rental rates. You can lock it in for another 1-2 years and it will sell later. You're not going to continue?
Great. All right. Thank you. Thanks. Okay, great. I think how has it been?
2 hours.
Oh my god.
1 hour
Wow.
47 minutes. We talk about 5 things today. I think fantastic. Let's record the
Outro.
intro.
No,
Yeah.
but I think right for today's episode. No.
You want to continue?
No, I just want to.
I want to go back and sleep.
Okay, so if anything, I feel that what today's episode tells us is that there's no right or wrong. There's no one size fits all, because in every situation, it seems like there are so many possibilities, so many answers that each of us have. So I do think that it really depends on the individual. Yeah.
我好像把你们 train 得越来越鸡杂。
Good. That's why it's called banter series.
Well,
You want us to banter, but you don't want us to
I've
talk.
trained them to be more and more talkative. First episode, they're all very quiet one. Now it's like starting to become a lullaby already.
Actually, I give an example, right? Actually, a lot of times when they talk about investments, wait, just a lot of times when they talk about like investments, right? They always talk about like when should I do certain action or like what should I buy. Actually, the most important factor is actually our own internal psychology factor when it comes to investment, because all of us can buy the same stock or the same property, but all of us, one can lose money, one can make a lot, one can make like immense profit, because what's the difference is your entry price and your exit timing.
Yep.
And whether you can switch to something else better. So focus on more internal factors.
Your holding power.
And holding power. Okay.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. Great. Oh, my legs are numb already.
Yeah, it's okay.
Look here, right? Look at center cam.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay.
他生气了，班长。
What's your horoscope?
Oh my god!
Are you Scorpio in
You
Eden?
already,
definitely
you already
not Scorpio.
asked so many times.
Are you a hidden Scorpio?
You know when you do this, your viewership will drop.
He's like my third son eh. My third son, right, he remembers every statement I say. Then he will use back on me one.
No, that is
Focus,
like
focus.
Cancer.
We are already
When's
at the
your
line.
birthday?
Okay, I'm Pisces. Okay, let's just continue.
Yeah, Pisces is second in line for revenge.
No, it's
First is Scorpio.
okay. Shall we do an outro?
Yes.
Alright, so we hope that you enjoyed this banter episode, and we want to see you on the next one. Do remember to leave your questions in the comment section below. We'll be very happy to answer your questions. And I think for those of you that have stayed with us over the last banter series, do also remember to sign up for our upcoming webinars, because we still have probably about 16 webinars to go for 2023, as well as the landed convention that's happening on 20th of May. We hope to see you there. Alright, meantime, take care. Bye.
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 You have to wear your cardigan. Yeah. I already told you countless times. You look too thin on camera. Wear your cardigan.
But where are we? Very weird.
No. Just
No, you should wear